Hi, my name is Brendon, and with today's podcast, what I'm going to be discussing with you guys is about success in modern times. Success, what is the true meaning of this word? What is the true resonance? We've all heard about this word success. However, we all have a very different perception about the, true meaning of what success really is. So, with today's podcast, the ideology is to discuss success in modern times. What exactly, how are we supposed to be perceiving this word? And so basically, success. If you come to think of it, it is a very intricate subject, and the more you think about the term, the more complex it becomes to explain. For success is a very vast term, which cannot be beat down and compressed into a few words or sentences. Success, as we gradually proceed with this podcast, we would learn gradually that success is basically a matter of perception. It is but a state of mind. It isn't really the amount of wealth that one accumulates over a period of one's own lifetime, because that really is not what success is all about. One of the biggest mistakes that we commit in modern times is that of linking success, is that of weighing success and equating it and measuring it with money. That is one of the biggest mistakes that we have been committing since a very, very long time. um for in my opinion, success is a term which one really cannot measure, and the fact that we try to measure it is in itself a very wrong act, and we should totally refrain from doing so. So it is just my personal opinion, and I may be wrong. I'm not sure if you may agree, if you may disagree with it, but we just need to open our eyes in order to be able to survey success. We can survey it, but the act of being able to measure it is in itself a very wrong act. And like I said, we should be, refraining from doing so. If only we were to open our eyes and look around us, there are tons and loads of success stories all around us. And all we have to do is look around. So, come, let's begin. Let's discuss this term success. Let's conjecture what success in modern times should ideally mean. When it comes to citing examples or giving examples of a successful person, or when it comes to explaining success as a concept to our children, or to school going kids rather, they more often than not, people are taught about this concept by means of giving examples of renowned people who have been there, who've done that, who've made a mark and who've contributed to the society. Basically renowned names like, for example, the likes of an Isaac Newton or an Albert Einstein, and so on and so forth. And that is how we teach the term success to children who are growing up. And somewhere down the line, these kids, as and when they grow up, they end up relating success to the amount of wealth or the amount of money that one has got hoarded or locked up in his or her bank account. And that is very wrong. That is the norm everywhere, from our parents to our teachers at school. Growing up, whenever we are taught about success, it goes alongside with examples. And well, of course, learning is done by means of giving examples. But with respect to this particular term success, I would beg to differ. We really cannot break down this term or have one understand this particular term by means of giving them examples, which is the wrong way to go about with it. See, the likes of Albert Einstein, the likes of Isaac Newton, yes, of course, they have been successful people, but in giving their examples to a school going kid, when we are doing so, the true resonance of the term successful is somewhere lost in translation. And we have been living with the wrong meaning of this term all these years. So I ask you guys, is it really as important for one to be as celebrated or as famous or as popular as these folks like an Einstein or a Newton or a Roger Federer or a Rafael Nadal or an Eminem or maybe the Backstreet Boys in order to be categorized or recognized as a successful person? Now, this is one notion that we need to do away with, and for good. For I have a very different point of view to present to you guys. Now, in my humble opinion, a homemaker, say for example a housewife, if not more, but she can be equally as successful as the likes of any other person. Now come to think of it, a homemaker or a mother rather, who sacrifices her life, her career in order to be able to raise her children into becoming good law-abiding, responsible citizens and above all, good human beings. Is she not successful in her own way, in her own right? Will you not call her that? Will you not call her successful? Why not? Because she has a very different goal. Her goal in life is not to, maybe accumulate XYZ amount of money. But her goal in life rather may be to, give a good upbringing to her children. And if she is successful in being able to do so, she is equally as successful as anyone else. Of course, sure, you wouldn't see her earning as much as maybe a popular person would, or maybe a Sachin Tendulkar would. Sure, no one would even know about her outside of her family or her limited circle of friends. Sure, she would not have millions of followers on a Facebook page. She will not have a YouTube channel, or she may not have any kind of backing on any kind of social networking circuit. However, if she is successful and she is able to achieve what she is going after, which is giving a good upbringing to her children, I'm sure she is equally as successful as anyone else out there. And that is the whole point of it. But then, if just in case if she's unable to, hoard tons and tons of money in her bank account, does she become unsuccessful? No, I really don't think so. Now, if I were to opine, I would say I would like to share an example here with you. And that'll be that of my sister. Her name is Neha, and once upon a time, back in her days, during her college days, she used to play badminton, at state level, and she had won for herself a collection of medals and trophies and whatnot at a very early age, in fact. However, there came a point in her life when she had to let go of all this. And it isn't like she was compelled to let go of, the career or a successful journey that she, could look forward to once upon a time, but it was a choice that she made. She let go of the chance of making it big, or possibly having represented the country at the highest level, or possibly having had the chance of having legions of fans cheering her on as she played for India. But, tell me this, does this make her any less successful than a PV Sindhu? And PV Sindhu, of course, is a great player and she's the pride of her nation, having brought a lot of recognition to her country. I guess not. It all eventually zeroes down to the choices that we make for ourselves, the life that we choose for us. And excelling in the choice that we have thereafter made for us is what defines how successful we have been. That defines the measure, that defines the extent of our success. The fact that my sister, 20 years after she had given up on her badminton career, 20 years after she had given up on her racket, she has now given the society to wonderful, wonderful law-abiding citizens. She has given two respectful, cultured children who are well-behaved. Kids, who may possibly go on to make it big in their lives. Children who might go on to have fulfilling careers. Kids who would take good care of their mother. Kids who would look after her, when old age sets in and her health starts failing her. Kids who would soon finish college and may go on to make a positive contribution to the society and to their respective field of work in whatever capacity that they can. Out here, capacity is the more important term. Whatever is their, limited capacity, it could be any capacity, but as long as they're making a positive contribution to the society or to their field of work, whatever be the scale of their capacity, that makes my sister quite a successful person. That makes her successful in what she had endeavored for. That makes her successful in having given a very good upbringing to the two kids that she had. And that makes her successful in the choice that she had made back in her time. So, one may not necessarily, what I'm trying to say here is, one may not, when I talk about choices basically, what I'm trying to say is, one may not necessarily find the job at NASA possibly as fulfilling as maybe just something as basic as writing poetry. It's about perception. Like I earlier pointed out, success is something which boils down to one's choices and also to perception. So, let me break this down for you a little further. Now, when I spoke about the NASA thing, so let's continue with that same segment of thought. Now, sure, one may be wondering that a job at NASA will surely provide for all the plush luxuries that one can imagine of. But in doing so, if you lose out on doing the things that please you, if you lose out on doing the things that would please your soul, basically things that would give you happiness, what is the point of it all, I ask? You may have all the expensive luxuries at your disposal, maybe a centrally air-conditioned house, a weekend bungalow by the outskirts of the city, the latest automatic SUV standing in your garage, etc. Does it not seem like a favorable position to be in? Of course it does. And 9 out of 10 people would willingly, trade for it. But these amenities, I ask you, these amenities that we just spoke of, What good are these amenities? They will give you nothing but material gratification. Now, what good is this bungalow if you don't have a hobby? Or maybe if you have had one hobby once upon a time, but you haven't been able to give it time in the pursuit of earning the money that you're earning. Now, what good will come from the car once it is old, or maybe when your age won't permit you to drive it? Now, what good is the air conditioner if you haven't ever had a chance in your pursuit of earning money, of, having walked outside your house in the evening, walking by a river or taking a stroll in your garden and enjoying the night breeze? It kills the logic. Let me break this further down for you just in case. Now, the reason why I cited or why I came up with this NASA example is because it comes from personal experience. A very dear friend of mine, he actually works with NASA. In fact, this particular friend of mine who's working with NASA, we were born in the same month, the same year, and just a few days apart. Now, it was still high school that we studied together, and we were almost as good as inseparable. Let me, share his story with you, because it will further help us beat the meaning out of the word successful. Now, this particular friend, whom I was referring to, between the two of us, he was always the more studious one. He was more scholarly than I. His rank and his grades being right up there with the best, while I made for your below average, helplessly despondent kid in the class with below par grades, excelling only and only in literature. Now, why I excelled in literature is because that subject gave me joy and it came naturally to me. Now, while this friend, he burnt the midnight flame and, he spent his nights memorizing lines, doing his subjects. While on the other hand, I would, end up sneaking I would end up sneaking under a bed sheet and I'd try to go ahead and, finish the novel that I'm reading. So, we had very drastic and we had very contradictory lifestyles, and, we had very different approach to life as a whole. Now, resultantly, because of our drastic habits, by the time I was in, senior secondary, I was taking 4 different tuition classes, with him taking none, mind you. Now, all this was being aimed at my marks and my grades, drawing level with his. Of course, that did not happen because my mother, by, sending me to 4 different classes, she was forcing me into doing something that did not give me joy, that did not give me happiness. And when you're being forced into do something that you do not like and which you're not doing wholeheartedly, you will never see results. It will never drive you to success. It is just something that you will do for the heck of it because you're being forced into doing so. But against that, it would be naive, it would be foolish to expect good results to fall into place. That is not going to happen. So, of course, resuming the story again, despite me taking 4 different tuitions and, with him taking none, the results really did not show. If anything, the results went further down. Because of the fact that now I was more, I was a little more sad in my life, having to, do things, having to go tuitions wherein I could have rather, utilized that time maybe playing sport or maybe indulging in, writing some essays, because that gave me joy. That was something that I loved doing. But that was not happening. So the results never spiked. Now, my mother denoted this to me being a failure. And it pains me to say, everyone had kind of written me off. So much so that when I had won an award for writing the best essay at a state level event the next year when I was in college, it went overlooked. Because success, the definition of the term success in my household, was scoring marks at par with Vipul's. Yeah, Vipul is the name of the friend that I had been referring to all this while. So as for me, I was elated. I had won an award, the very first time that I had ever won an award in my life. I was, really happy. And literature, like I pointed out earlier, gave me happiness. Just reading or just writing gave me immense joy. Second only to playing cricket maybe. But there was something special about writing, that soothed my soul, and something that gave me transcendence. So to have won this singular, unprecedented essay competition, it brought me happiness. Unbridled happiness, which I really cannot compare and which I really cannot measure and which I really cannot rate by any means of measurement. Now years rolled on, and as is the law of life, Vipul and I, we started drifting apart. What with life, taking us to different directions. Now he opted for science while I settled for arts. My family still was nowhere pleased with my choice, because success for them was being able to opt what Vipul opted for. Now, alas, my high school results would not, my high school results would deny them this satisfaction, so I had to settle with arts. Now, a few years later, we graduated, we started working like anyone else does. Few years later, in fact, a few months later after our graduation, Vipul opted to fly states and he, opted to pursue his further education. He went for a post-graduation course in MIS. To later get hired first by Amazon, followed soon by NASA. Now, as for me, I started my own venture, a human resource consulting firm. It's been 7 years now, and surprisingly for me, I have done relatively well, or so I feel. Now, having always grown in the shadow of Vipul's achievements, it comes as a surprise I could become a decent entrepreneur. And in between, the business having been settled with, I could also manage the time to, write my first book and get it published. Which always had been a dream for me. Writing a book had always been a dream that I had nurtured, ever since the time I was in school. I had always wanted to see my name embossed on the covers of a book. Right from the time I had first entered my school library, the only one dream that I had always preserved very close to my heart was that of being able to see my name embossed on a book that I have written. Now, that's the one dream that I had always had. That's the only dream that I had, in fact. Now, this is something I knew I just had to do, for if not, irrespective of the money that I would have eventually made, I won't have been at peace. And this desire to write a book, mind you, this was really not fueled by the desire to make money or be recognized and be as celebrated as the likes of maybe a J.K. Rowling or a J.R.R. Tolkien or a Charles Dickens or anyone else. Now, irrespective how many copies were sold or the royalty that I earned out of it, all I had wanted to do was write a good quality, decent book. Your dreams have to be simple. The moment you attach your dreams, or you have any kind of other ambitions out of your dream, like that of earning money or making it big, or imagining a legion of fans, it goes for a toss. You have to have a very simple dream and then go after it, pursue it, work on it, take it to closure with very simple intent. And in doing so, you have to enjoy the process all the while. And in the process of going after your dream, one has to ensure that you're doing it with 100% sincerity, earnesty, and with other wild thoughts like that of being able to earn money, or like being able to, like the thoughts of being able to topple different writers or different people, or being the best in the business and, rolling out the competitors. You have to do away with those kind of thoughts. It has to be a very simple notion, like I said. So, coming back to the story. So, irrespective of how many copies were sold or the amount of royalty that I earned, like I told you, all I had ever wanted to do was write a good quality, decent book. I had a simple dream and I wanted to go after it. Now, it is the sight of a small 2-liner review by a reader that gives me more joy than the payment credit message I receive, against my business account. Nope. My business may just be my source of income, my source of earning my livelihood, but not what defines my success. For success, at least for me, is being able to find happiness doing the one thing I always wanted to do, which is right. I'm sure you guys will have that one thing that you always wanted to do, right from the time you were in school, right from the time when you went to college. There must have been this one thing that, when you were a kid and someone came and asked you, what do you want to do? And you always give this particular answer back to them. I'm sure you still have this one thing that you always wanted to do. And that is what your dream is. And if you're able to do it, that is when you are a successful person. So, success, like I said, I reiterate, is being able to find happiness doing the one thing you always want to do. Come to think of it, what is this one thing that no one taught you, that you hadn't, that you hadn't learned? You just excelled at it automatically because it came naturally to you. Think of what that one thing is. Now, irrespective of the results, for if you find happiness in the process, for if you do something wholeheartedly, with earnesty, with sincerity, the results will show. The results would automatically look after themselves. If not instantly, but with time, good results would show. Money making may be a skill, but surely not the metric to measure one's success. As for Vipul, As for Vipul, we are still friends, thick as thieves as we always were. And only last Diwali we had met, for he was come here to India to spend Diwali with his family. Having lit diyas and having sat for the Lakshmi Pujan, just as any other Diwali of old, just as our childhood days, we met. Walking down our colony street, Vipul expressed his desire to return back to India for good. And he confessed that he had been trying for a while. He confided in me that he was trying to look for a job in India for quite some time now. I was perplexed, and naturally, I wanted more clarification on his chain of thoughts. So, I wanted to understand the cause why he wanted to turn back home, because according to me, he was the role model of success. He was, after all, working with the NASA. He had always been the, top graded kid back in school. And he was living the dream, or so I felt. Now, it was what he told me next which made me realize this man standing next to me, whom I had thought I had known so well. Well, I did not know him at all. Or at least his true self had been all these years to me a mystery. His inner thoughts, his inner voice were very different from what appeared on surface. His job with NASA, he confessed, was by chance and not by intent. For all he had ever intended was to ply with his parents' desires. And of course, he had done a good job so far, we would all agree over that. However, in his strife to fall in with his parents' desires, somewhere in transit, over the years, he had somewhere let go of his own inner desires, his inner self. He had ended up losing the person that he was. He had ended up losing out on his own identity. It was now that he told me, staying in states, far away from his roots, away from his beloved, away from his friends, irrespective of the money that he made, which he made, of course, not a moment went by when he wouldn't think of coming back home. And home, for him, was being able to stay with his parents. He detested not being able to personally himself do what he wanted to do for his parents. Domestic help, cook, insurance, driver, a centrally air-conditioned home. He had been doing everything that he could to give his parents a good retired life. However, his inability to personally soak it in, be in the moment himself, left him morose and dismayed. He was disappointed. He was not at ease. He wanted to come stay back home, give time to his music. Oh yes, he loved playing the guitar. He wanted to experience coming back home in the evenings, looking forward to a delicious homely meal he could enjoy in company of his family, and then maybe go to his terrace, sit playing the guitar like he had always hoped that one day he would. Maybe after school he thought he'd be able to do so, maybe after college, maybe after his first job, but that moment so long had continued to evade him, and to his disappointment, he had not been able to do a single day in his life ever since the time he passed from school till date. So much so that he had almost completely deserted this hope now that one fine day he would come back home in the evening, have dinner with his family, wield his guitar, go to the terrace, under the stars, sit playing his music, come back home in the night, go off to sleep, wake up, Monday to Friday work, weekends being family affairs. Alas, he had given up on this hope. This is the one thing that he had always hoped for. This is the one thing that he had always wanted to make for himself. But in this rat race, in this madness, in this clutter of the modern ages, life kept taking him from one place to another, and in the process of it all, he ended up forgetting what he had wanted. And he was just going through the daily chores from home to work, back home, going to sleep. But in transit, he'd never been able to really find happiness in the process. And this was the one reason now he wanted to come back home. This was the one reason now that he was dismayed. He was Very well. We would definitely come back to this story because there's a lot that I'm yet to cover about a friend, Vipul. But for now, I would chop it off because this podcast is, becoming really long, too long for my comfort, and I'm sure that even you won't be able to listen to as much. So we'll come back to the story. For now, I would earnestly want to urge anyone and everyone out there who's listening to this podcast to not let go of your dreams, to not let your jobs, the money that you're earning or the money that you can possibly earn, define the extent of your own success. Success is not an all-defining term. One may be good or successful at some things, while one may not be as effective at other things. What I'm trying to say is that you can be a successful entrepreneur, you can be a successful professional, you can be a successful teacher, but alas, you may of course be left wanting in some other walks of life. You may be gifted at some things while you may have your shortcomings and you may have your drawbacks. So success, my friend, is being able to strike the right chord, the right balance in between what you want and what your soul desires. Gratifying and satisfying one's material and worldly needs and desires at the expense of one's spiritual progress is a glaring example of an unsuccessful person. Alas, it is not us who are at fault, but the modern outlook and the modern education that tosses us straight into the money-making rat race that life now has become. That we are led naively into knowing success as the crude term that it has now become. Success, alas, is an autonomous feeling, and independent from one's worldly gains or, one's wealth that you have accumulated so far. Success is not that. Success is being able to draw the right balance. Success is the process of being able to live your is the process of being able to live your life with the right set of notions, with the right principles, going by the right methods, doing the right thing, going after the things that you want, not comparing your failures and your small successes with that of others, being happy, being content in whatever limited capacity that you can be, being able to do the things that give you peace, being able to do the things that satisfy your soul. Because for life, this is a very temporary thing. We are here today, and come tomorrow we may just not be here. But in the process, if you spend your life going after your material needs, going after accumulating wealth, keeping tiffs with others, and not being content at heart, it kills the logic of this particular lifetime. As long as you're here, you're supposed to live a satisfied, you're supposed to live a proud life for yourself. You have to, have good relationships, because relationships are the essence of one's lifetime. The only thing that you take back when your time is spent is your relationships, because that will resonate after you. It's not the wealth that you have earned. So for now, my friends, I would call an end to this particular podcast, this particular session. We will be coming back again in 2 days' time and not more with our next segment about life and other things. For now, if you've liked this video and if you'd like to share some feedback as well, please be my guest to do so. And I hope you like this video, and then next videos that will be uploaded very soon. In the meantime, since we are all locked down and we don't know when the situation is going to end, if you are a reader, do check out my debut book, Edge of Link. It is available on Amazon Kindle, and various other platforms. I'm sure you would like the book. For now, I would take your leave. My name is Brendon. Thank you so much.